All right, Brenda.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Happy
Good.
Friday.
Good. Yeah, it's Friday.
It's Friday for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming back. Session 2. It's been about a week since we had our last session, so I just wanted to recap a little bit, reminders of what I heard in case anything has changed. But you're coming in, you had a very long career as an executive assistant, and now that college for kids is kind of taken care of. That's not something you have to worry about as far as supporting your family anymore. You're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more fulfilling. Money isn't enough, going to stand in the way of what you do. You're willing to get whatever education you might need, right? So that's correct still. And then your goals for the session, you wanted to have a clearer understanding of which direction you should go, and maybe even some tools to help get you there. Is that still kind of the goal?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And is there anything additional about the situation? Maybe since last week you've had some time to process, think over our first session. Anything new come to mind that you might want to share about where you're at in your career journey? No? Okay. Okay, great. So today's session will be very similar to last week's. We're just going to keep exploring. It might be a little bit more interactive, a little bit more exploratory. But I wanted to hear just a little bit more about your life experiences. I think different things in our life will prompt where we want to go in our life. And so I'm just wondering, you have a long career as an executive assistant, but was there times during your time as an executive assistant that you would kind of daydream or think about other jobs or roles that you might want to be doing?
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I believe that I'm very good at, and I could visualize myself doing them. There are some things.
Yeah, so when you think about, when you're, especially at the times as an executive assistant where you were maybe unhappy thinking about the roles that you didn't want to do, it was just fulfilling that very specific purpose that you had in your life.
Right.
What were some of those thoughts, those daydreams, or I wish I could just do this, or I could do that better?
Yeah. I just wish that I could be in an environment where I was not being critiqued all the time, or that I had that the pace was a little slower, that I had more interaction with people than just one person, or a work that would be valuable to others, would be helpful to others, a work that I could really enjoy, a work that I didn't necessarily have to bring home with me, and some flexibilities with the times that I would have to be at work, and I didn't necessarily want to have a job where I was doing a lot of math or science, or nothing had anything to do with that, but mostly having to do with maybe talking through some problems that people might have, connecting with them in small groups, talking about how we can move them from, how I could assist them in moving from one probably dysfunction to the other, or from one dysfunction out of a dysfunction,
Sure.
So
yeah.
I think that would be more of a better fit for me. And when I dream about, a job, I kind of dream about something that looks like that.
Yeah, that's good. You mentioned not being critiqued all the time. Did you feel like you're experiencing that a lot in your previous role?
I I think I guess that's not really the right word.
Okay.
There is a there is a thing in corporate America where you have to be on point all the time,
Yeah.
from head to toe,
Mm.
outside, inside, all the time, and
Mm.
I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Very superficial.
Yeah.
Very superficial. Nothing honest. Nothing
Mm.
that brings value uh, to my life
Mm.
and to other people. And I'm sure it brings value to others,
Mm.
but it just doesn't bring the kind of value that I'm looking for
Sure.
to my life. So when I say that being critiqued, there is you have to fit in a certain mold.
Mm.
And you have to be a certain way. I mean, wear nice clothes, or you wear your suits, and that's the outside, but you need to say the right things. You need to use all the correct buzzwords, all the correct acronyms. You have to abide by all the rules, and to be truthful, there is definitely a glass ceiling for African American women.
Mm.
There is no opportunities for I tried many times to move from one department to another, because I tried to move into a HR department, because that's actually where I have my undergrad degree in.
Oh,
Is
okay.
human resource, and so I tried to move from one department to others, and it was just impossible.
Really?
Lots of politics, lots of politics, lots of nepotism, lots of being in the in crowd, knowing the right buzzwords, knowing who to talk to about this to get that's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm frankly tired of it.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
Just tired of it.
Yeah.
Just tired of it.
Yeah.
So.
And you mentioned this glass ceiling for African American women. Did you experience that? And you mentioned you were an executive assistant in a number of different places.
Mhm.
Was that? Did you always feel
Always.
Really?
Always. All three places.
And how did that really manifest itself? Were you seeing other people of different races or genders get positions over you that you felt like you were very qualified for, or you were the most qualified?
Yeah, I think I applied for positions that I was qualified for and did not get them. And it may not have all to do with me being an African American. It had something to do with the structure of the corporate
Sure.
of the corporate climate.
Mm-hmm.
It's about who you know, how you know, and you just it just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't connected in that kind of way.
Right.
And so I just.
Was there something about, obviously there's something about the environment, but a lot of the things that you've mentioned are relationship building, you like to do that. Did you just feel so disconnected from the people that were there that you didn't want to invest in them in the same way that you were looking for this kind of in your church communities and in your small groups?
Mm-hmm. They're very different from me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Is that you can't invest in something that is not like you. It's hard to, it was very difficult to invest in the people, because they were very not like me, very superficial. I'm very honest and frank, upfront,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
To the point, not, no jokes, no, just who I am.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't work in
Yeah.
that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Well, at least in the places that I've been.
Sure.
The 3 places that I've been. So.
Yeah. That idea of being fully known, accepted for who you are, and knowing that there's a level of authenticity on both sides is important to you, because otherwise there's kind of a barrier up, right?
Yeah, and I don't want it to sound like that people in corporate America are shallow, that they're this, they're that. But there is a corporate atmosphere that's not conducive to who I am.
Yep.
And that's just the way.
Right.
It's just not conducive to who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and it could be that not all places are like that,
Right.
but that's your experience,
That's my
and so
experience.
that's very real.
Yeah.
You mentioned not having a job that you have to bring home with you. Was that something that you felt like you were constantly still thinking about work when you were coming home? It overpowered your thoughts and your conversations, even with your husband, or impacted your relationship with your children. What was that like?
Well, I think because I was so unhappy with the job that I brought it home. That's what it was. It wasn't that I had to bring home work that I wouldn't mind if somebody said, okay, you got to do this assignment, blah, blah, blah. That would be fine. But I think because I was so unhappy with the work, I brought the feelings of unhappiness home.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to bring that home to my family. My family is my place where I can have that's my sanctuary.
Yeah.
So I don't want to bring my job, the bad feelings that I'm getting from my job into my home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I meant by
and
bringing it home.
How did that impact you when you say you're unhappy and it impacted your relationships? And in what way? Was it the way that you would respond? What did that look like? Can you tell me a little
when
more
you talk about it, as far as my home, going home, I think I had opportunities. I had to take opportunities just to kind of calm down when I got home.
Yep.
I think my kids used to say, they used to laugh about, she's home. Oh boy, it's getting ready to happen.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that I kind of brought it home. I did. I thought that, and I didn't recognize it until I started to take a look back and say, oh, I am just so unhappy with this situation. What was the question you asked me?
I just asked how it impacted your relationships.
I think that eventually my family kind of understood that I was under a lot of pressure and I was unhappy with the job. So they just kind of allowed me to have my space when I needed it. I think that it was so unfulfilling that it just kind of spilled over into other areas of my life where I was just questioning whether or not it was something truly, truly wrong with me because I didn't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a round peg in a square hole,
right.
Or a square peg in a round hole, whatever. Yeah.
Just didn't fit.
Just didn't fit.
Yeah.
Just didn't fit. So you leave there questioning, am I, something's wrong with me? Everybody who's around here is pretty happy. And I am miserable. And I know that it's because I'm just not being fulfilled at what I'm doing.
You felt like you had a little bit of an identity crisis, right? Is there something wrong with me? Who am I? You felt like did you feel like you were losing your identity a little bit in the job? Confusion about who you were?
Well, I guess in a way that you can say that, but I just kind of felt that, I kind of felt like there was something wrong with me that I couldn't fit there. I can not necessarily that my identity and knowing who I am was always there. I knew that I didn't fit, but I questioned, well, why couldn't I just fit? What was it about me that was so different that I couldn't fit? And I guess that's how I kind of thought about it. I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it in that case, whether or not it was connected to who I am and made me feel bad about who I am as a person. I don't know. I have to reevaluate that. So.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience in the corporate world where it was just like hard to connect because there's something different. And I did find that for me it was like every feeling that I had was based on how my workday was going, and it was like I identified as this person because I couldn't separate it. So I can definitely relate to those feelings.
Mhm. I think that I had gone to counseling at one point,
Okay.
and what the counselor had said to me is that I needed to take time to wind down after I came from work. So by me winding down, I think I kind of got back to the person that I was. Eventually, sometimes it took maybe an hour,
Yeah.
half hour, or whatever. But those were tools that she had given me to try to work through some of that. When actuality, it really was not the right fit.
It was so like, how can we just get through this? Persevere.
Yeah. It wasn't going to fit.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to fit. So.
Yeah. What were some of the tools or activities you would do to wind down? What did that look like for you?
I love singing, so what I would do is I would get a song that I'd like to sing, and I would just wail it.
Nice. That's awesome.
I would just wail it. I would pretend like I had a microphone, and I would just go wailing that song. So I have a microphone on my dresser at home. So when I would come upstairs, and my kids were like, that's why I said when she's home, because I'd be up there singing my head off, doing something crazy like that.
That's so great.
Yeah, she told me to do some of the things that I'd like to do.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I would do is I would go shopping. Sometimes I wouldn't go straight home. Sometimes I might go shopping. And I didn't have money to shop, so what I would do is just go window shopping.
Yeah.
And that kind of calmed me down. Sometimes it take an hour.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But it just wasn't the right fit.
Right.
So the next day, I'd go back and I'd have to keep doing that same thing over and over again.
So good techniques, but not Band-Aids.
Yeah,
right?
Just Band-Aids.
Band-Aids. So last week when we met, we talked about 3 jobs that you ideally might like to explore, think about having. You mentioned counseling, working in a Christian institution, maybe in a discipleship role, or even over small groups. Were there any other careers that came to mind when you were thinking about that, or are those the 3 primary ones you've been thinking about?
Those are about the 3,
yeah. And at the end of our session, I had asked, if maybe to think about throughout the week, ranking those 1 to 3. So maybe you got the chance to think about it, maybe you didn't. But if we could rank them right now, how would you put those in order?
Probably the counseling first.
Okay.
Discipling. Well, small groups, then discipling.
Okay. So when you think about these, what brings counseling to the top?
Because as I've taken, a lot of people come to me and we solve problems together.
Okay.
It's a problem solver. I think that my desire to help, I think my desire to listen and be compassionate is what, and establish good relationships. I think that those are some of my strengths that I have seen over the years. I remember a long time ago when my kids were small, I was sitting in in my car and I was listening to a lady talk about how she was a counselor and how she got there. And I said, and she talked about who she was, and I said, that's me. That's who I am. And that kind of made me start to realize that executive assistant is not who I am, but this is who I am. So it made me start to plan about what the next step is. Um, yeah. So, however, I'm not sure about that, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah. What makes you unsure about it?
Because I mean, and I guess it's not really that I'm unsure. I need to make sure that, well, I guess that is the word. We keep saying that word. I need to verify and look at options before I make a decision to move in any direction. Because if I were to go to school, it's going to take time and money.
Yep.
I've kind of prepared for that already.
Okay, great.
But I need to know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So that's why.
When you say you've prepared for it, have you looked into institutions that you could go to get this counseling degree? No, not yet.
No.
Okay.
Just looked at, just prepared. You know, I said, okay, grad school costs about this. And I didn't look at specific counseling grad school or being a pastor or working in ministry. I didn't look at that. I mean, I looked at that and said, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. So let's prepare in that way.
Okay.
But didn't know exactly, specifically what direction that might look in.
Got it.
Yeah.
Anything else that makes you unsure about, other than liking to kind of meticulously plan and make sure that you're assessing all options for counseling?
No, not really. Not really.
And with your, you've obviously been to a counselor before, and when you were sitting there, were you also thinking, I would really like to do this? This is something where I could see myself.
Well, I kind of went to a family counselor, and she specialized in family counseling, and she had a PhD, and I knew that wasn't going to happen for me. I wasn't going to do that, so I didn't kind of think about it a lot when I was talking about her. But yeah, I could see myself doing what she did.
Thanks.
Definitely.
Great. And so what about teaching in small groups? That was number 2. What puts that in the middle rank?
Because, I don't know, I think that as far as a career goes, I think I have a career in that already.
Yeah, with your lead that you've been doing.
Yeah, I think I already have a career. It would be, how do you make money with that? That's the thing. How do you support a family with that? I mean, I prepared for some time away from work, but that does, not forever. I would have to. And what kind of how do you get trained for that? And those were my ideas about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And with the role that you're kind of already playing in that for a lead, are there roles there that can be profitable, or is it just so far out of reach to think about?
Lead is really making a big mark on in the U46 district. However, there is an attitude about when people think sometimes services, because people are passionate about it, that they should get paid for it.
Right.
So they pay very little to us about it. Sometimes I spend more money out of my pocket than I do for this. And what would happen is that some schools, 2 schools would cut us off, 2 schools would pick us up. So it'd be so much inconsistency. However, we're always working. We're always there. We always got schools that are asking for us. But what would happen is, like I said, it's a school to decide they don't want to spend their monies this way. And so, excuse me.
Okay.
There's about 8 of us that are working together to do this.
Mhm.
So some of us have 2 schools. Well, actually, there's 8 of us. We all have 2, 4 schools. 8 of us, 4 schools. We all have 2 apiece that we're working with. 2 schools we're working with, and we started off with 1. We had to split ourselves into different places. So it is something that I don't know if we'll be able to make the type of money that we'll be able to support, help support a family. I think we'll be able to supplement some incomes,
Sure.
but not make enough to support a family. We actually write curriculum. We have a person who writes curriculum and things like that. So it's a lot to do, but there's not a lot of funding for it.
And you said you're mostly working with 6 to 10-year-olds. Is that right?
Well,
or that's your
my
ideal?
My 2 classes that I have 3rd and 4th graders,
Okay.
and then I have 7th and 8th graders.
Okay. Got it. Nice. So it sounds like maybe that's something that you would continue to do, regardless of what career path you choose.
Yeah.
So that's more.
As
That's
long
going
as,
to be a part of your life, no matter what.
as long as the kids need that, as long as the schools will allow us to come in, and if the truth be told, I probably would do it without being paid for it, but I'm not going to let them know that because they should pay for the services that they're receiving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's great. And then, so what puts working in a Christian institution in more of a discipleship role? What puts that down at the bottom of the 3?
Working in a Christian institution.
It's an interesting response.
Yeah, I don't want to see the ugliness of people.
Okay.
I don't want to see it. My husband is a minister, and I see some ugly things in the church, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to be bothered with it. I think that I would do that, possibly, but there's other stuff that I don't want to be bothered with. I don't want to be bothered with the politics. I don't want to be bothered with I just don't want to be bothered with the politics. And I don't know if there will be a lot of politics with that, provided I pull it outside of the church.
Yeah.
The problem is being inside of the church and being controlled by these people, the group of elders and people. Like I said, I don't want to have people constantly monitoring and looking and stuff like that.
So it's similar to what you experienced in your previous role with that critiquing, maybe even a ceiling, you know, where people are implementing, telling you what you have to do. You're not that.
Yeah, I need that freedom to move in the direction in which, you know, God has said instead of what they might be saying. Who knows? I might be by myself.
And you feel like you've gotten a little peek under the tent. With what your husband does. Yeah. So what does draw you to the role? You've explained what might push you away from it and why it's the bottom of the 3, but what does draw you to it?
Seeing people grow, seeing people develop, seeing people come to who they are. We also, being these same 8 women, have, you know, we do a kind of a each one teach one group. Where we just teach each other, discipling one another, going from house to house. We do every 3rd Sunday. So there is the main thing is the main thing. There's nothing else but the main thing. There's no afternoon programs. There's no events that, you know, no Easter programs for the kids. There's no activities. The main thing is the main thing. Keeps me focused. Keeps me from running around, doing a lot of extra stuff that I really don't want to do. So that's where I'm at with that. That's why I don't want to bring it in the church.
Mhm.
What's good about it is that I see growth in the women. I see growth in myself.
Yeah.
I see them bringing in other women,
Mhm.
evangelizing women. Uh, you know, like our group has practically doubled in size. Um, it's a phenomenal thing to watch how women grow. When some women have come in and not been able to, outline, just take a short piece of text and outline it.
Mhm.
But there are women who know how to do that now.
Yeah.
It's just seeing, and then so they can teach someone else.
Mhm.
And so there's this constant teaching of teaching of
Mhm.
teaching of teaching. And there also is fellowship, relationship building, um, um, sense of community,
Yeah.
uh, establishing long term friendships for long periods of time. Because these girls we've been friends for a long time. So
Yeah.
those things, and other people come in and we be friends, and then and our
Mhm.
kids are kids and friends, and so it's just establishing community.
Yeah.
Yeah, without all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounds like something too where it will probably continue to be a part of your life,
Mm-hmm.
whether you decide to do it as a career
Right.
or not.
Right.
You mentioned for teaching small groups not being a lot of money. How do you feel about the why can't I think of it? Salary for being in the church? Is that enough for you based on the stage of life that you're in?
Well, a salary outside of the church or
Inside the church, if you were to work in this discipleship role at the church, that salary.
I probably would never do that inside the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's maybe number 3 and not even on the list.
Yeah, probably would never do it
Okay.
in the church.
Okay.
Would do it outside.
Got it. Okay.
Totally outside.
Got it.
Never
Okay.
probably in with the expectations that there would be no pay, but the pay would be the growth, seeing the growth and the individuals coming into who they were designed to be.
Got it.
So,
yeah. Thanks for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a lot of you love watching people kind of come alive and come into who they are and grow, and a lot of those things are going to really pair well with the counseling role as well too. So I definitely have a few more questions, but I actually want to do a little bit of an activity first, if you're okay with that. So what I want to do is a career visualization exercise. So really just kind of going through letting you imagine what does your day look like, and on an ideal day, if you were doing the job that you wanted to be doing, what does it look like from start to finish? So does that sound like okay with you? We can kind of walk through that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. So it's going to be kind of a guided discovery, so I'll kind of guide you through the different things I want you to think about. So I just want you to kind of take a minute first to focus yourself, focus your attention, kind of reflect, maybe take a few deep breaths, and maybe start to let your eyes flutter close, just so you can really focus. And if at any time you feel like you want to open your eyes, you can, or if at any time you feel uncomfortable, just let me know. But I'll just give you a second to kind of focus and kind of get your eyes closed. So we're going to just walk through a scenario, and you don't need to respond to anything that I'm saying now. We'll kind of recap it all at the end. But I just want to have you just let your mind run as you kind of explore all the things that you're feeling, all the activities that you're going to be doing as we go throughout the exercise. So just want you to first picture waking up in the morning and thinking about where you are, maybe who you wake up next to, where you wake up, what else is in the room with you. Just kind of soak that up in. Maybe you're waking up next to the ocean. Maybe you're waking up in a city, on a farm, whatever it might be. Thinking about that, and think about what time it might be on this ideal work day. Do you get to sleep in? Do you have to get up early? And what thoughts might be coming to you as you start thinking about work for the day? What feelings do you feel? Is there excitement, anxiety, any sort of mental preparation you might need to do for the day? And then when you're thinking about actually finally getting up out of bed, what are the activities that you might do as you prepare for this day? You shower, go make yourself breakfast. Are there people that you're engaging with in this morning? And then what do you do? Do you go get coffee? Do you need to get out the door? Do you have a list of errands that you might want to take care of before the day gets started? Do you need to call somebody and have a phone conversation with them? Connect with somebody? And then as you start to think about how you're going to get to it, are you going to take a train there? Maybe you drive a car. Is there even a commute? Are you going to work from home? As you're on your commute, if you commute, what do you pass by? What's the scenery like? How long are you on that commute for? And again, as you're preparing to go to work for the day, what sort of thoughts are coming to mind? Do you have any sort of preparation you might need to do on that commute? What sort of feelings do you have about approaching the day? And so now you get to work. What are the tasks that you need to do to start off your day? Do you need to put together a list of things to do? Do you need to prepare for any situations? Who are you going to interact with today? What's the environment like with your coworkers? Do you have coworkers? What is that experience like for you? And what sort of tools do you need to use? Are you going to be at a computer all day? Are you taking notes on things? Start to kind of think about that. And as you move through your workday, is there anything else that you haven't experienced yet that you'd like to experience? And then your workday is coming to an end. Starting to think about the thoughts you're having as you think back on your day, the feelings that you have closing up the day. Are they feelings of accomplishment? Are they feelings of satisfaction? Have you seen growth in yourself, growth in others? And then think about what you might want to do when you're done with work. Are you meeting up with a friend or a family member? Are you going to see somebody? Are you just going to go home and hang out, make dinner, take a nap? How are you going to round out your day? And as your night winds down, you start thinking about work for the next day. You're starting to just kind of take a few minutes, let yourself really experience some of those thoughts and feelings. And then as you're ready, you can go ahead and take a couple deep breaths to allow yourself to get out of it and kind of start coming back into the session.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to remember all the stuff.
That's okay. We're going to just kind of recap. We've only got about 10 minutes of the session left. But if you could just describe briefly what your day looked like. Maybe a couple thoughts and feelings that you had as you experienced that day.
I think one of the things that you asked me where would I would be probably somewhere near the ocean where the sun is shining. I can feel like the ocean and the palm trees are all moving in unison with one another, just taking it easy. I'll probably have slept on a hammock that night, and kind of outside, maybe on a sun porch or something. The sun is up, coming up. The first thing that I probably would do is grab my Bible from underneath, like I normally do, start to do a little devotion or something, and probably start to hum a song or whatever. And my husband would make some breakfast for me. We'd have breakfast together. I'd be on my way to my job in my car, and I would only be maybe 10, 15 minutes to half hour away. Maybe 10 minutes, 15, half hour away. I probably would be by myself, working with someone just one-on-one, talking to them about some of their experiences and how I could help them with their experiences. I probably would just work a half a day.
Okay.
Where I would spend the afternoon, take an afternoon walk with maybe some of my friends, or even some grandparent who's just kind of hanging out for the day. Just kind of take a walk with them in the afternoon, come back and do a small Bible group study or some kind of interaction with other people, teaching, talking, sharing ideas, experiencing some relationships and creating community.
So, when you think about that work day and you're working one-on-one with somebody, were you working in a counseling role? Is that where you were imagining yourself?
Probably, yeah. In a counseling role. Yeah.
Are you seeing specific types of clients? Is there an area of focus that you kind of imagine yourself in an ideal situation?
Probably the elderly population.
Okay. Is there something particular that draws you to the elderly population?
I don't know. I think that, it's something about people who are older. They're wiser, they're calmer, to me, they're interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And a couple times throughout the exercise, I said, think about how you're feeling in this situation. And you worked a half a day. It sounded like you had a lot of flexibility, the flexibility you were looking for. How did you feel in these interactions with your clients where you worked half a day?
I feel like I had some control over my life. I felt fulfilled. I definitely didn't feel out of control. I didn't feel pressured or having to conform to some other norm or something.
Yeah. Sounds like it was definitely very different from your past experience, but very much what you were looking for. And does this seem like something that is a realistic? Obviously, maybe not the palm trees or things like that, maybe that's realistic. But seeing yourself in that role, did you feel like, I know you said you felt fulfilled, but did it feel like you mentioned before, you said this isn't me in your last role?
Oh no, yeah.
And then this
isn't. Yeah, that would be me. That would be more of me. The other role is definitely not me. But this would be who I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, and I probably mentioned this last week too, really having a great understanding of self as we go through this, and I think you do a great job articulating the things that you love and the things that light you up, like seeing other people grow and listening to them and helping them and developing relationships. And the other thing that I love about your scenario is even after work, a lot of those other things that you had previously listed as maybe career options, they were still a part of your day. They were still what you wanted to spend your time in, but maybe wasn't where you saw you spending your career. And did you feel like maybe that helped you kind of separate? These are things that I definitely see as more outside of the scope of occupation for you?
I don't know if I think of a career as a separation.
Okay.
I don't know if I think of a career like I think about a lifestyle.
Okay.
It's all a lifestyle. It's just, I've gotten to that place where I kind of think about a career as a lifestyle. It kind of connects all the pieces of your life together. And when you are disjointed, you're disconnected from the rest of your life. This is over, and some people think that it can hang out on the peripheral. Your career can be on the peripheral. I tend to think that my career is a joining of who I am. It's not on the peripheral. It's a part of who I am.
That makes sense, and it especially makes sense with the struggles that you've had in your past role, that you didn't feel like that was who you are.
Right. I couldn't pull that into who I was as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So, as we wrap up, I just want to talk really quickly about a few assessments that I want to have you take. Each of them might take 15, 20 minutes. Some are shorter and longer than others. There's a few different ones. So, do you have access to a computer? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to give you links. I have a one sheet here that kind of describe each of the inventories or assessments that I'm going to have you take to walk through. And what are these are going to do is they're going to highlight maybe some of the things that you already know and might come to a head where we say these things marry really well together. But I think now that we've gathered a lot of information about you and who you see yourself as and how you view career, we're going to be able to marry them with some of these assessments. And I want to be clear that these aren't tests. There's no right or wrong answer. And you can take them at a leisurely pace. And I would love if you did do that and not really rush through them. Each of them is going to come with instructions for you. So you can walk through that. But the strong interest inventory is one of them, but it's going to help you kind of understand what are your interests, your work activities, potential skills, and your values, and it's going to lay those out in 6 different areas, and then we're going to see what areas are very rewarding to you and link those with your interests. So that's one, and we'll go through all of these results next session, and then we're also going to have the type indicator from Myers-Briggs, so that'll kind of tell you where you get your energy, what kind of person are you, how do you make decisions, personal characteristics. And then there's also this self-directed search, and this is going to also provide you with some other information for your career development. And if you're uncertain in certain areas, and it sounds like you've got a pretty good idea, but maybe this can help give us a little bit more of an affirmative on there. And then also the 4 DISC personality types of behavior. Again, this is personality, but it's also going to link in those spiritual gifts that you have. And I'm sure that through all of your time that you've spent in ministry, you've maybe taken a spiritual gifts testing. But this is an opportunity to link that then with careers and how we can see that. So these are the 4 different assessments that you'll take. Do you have any questions for me on that? Okay, perfect. So I'll leave you with this one sheet. Like I said, there's links for each of them on there, and the results will then send to you, so you'll have some time to look over those as well, but we'll go into them in more depth in our next session. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Brenda.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.